Okay, well, good morning. Actually, it's probably closer to afternoon. I got in sort of late from the concert, and then didn't get to bed till late, so woke up a little late. Um, Today's lesson, I Am Spirit, number 97 from the Workbook of A Course in Miracles, and there's some beautiful language in this lesson. When I was thinking, as the last few days up here, it's beginning to look today like we're going to get some rain. They said around noon, which is possible. And as I was reading this lesson through, I am spirit, in a sense, and I wouldn't really know how to talk about this because I am spirit. I am not what it seems to look like. I am spirit. I am not the shapes that the spirit seems to present in this illusion of density, this illusion of spatial and temporal references. I am spirit. I am not this body that is seen to be coagulated into a form that perhaps is too dense to offer a reflection of what is behind the density, or what the density seems to be made of, in a sense. It's much like thinking of yourself, look at a picture, look at a fine watercolor. You're not. Picture seems to be what the watercolors were made into, but they remain watercolors. The world seems to be an outward picturing of the solidified ideas that give shape to what we're looking at. Yet behind that is the spirit, the vaporousness of our identity, the free, unshapen, unformed, much like clouds in the sky. As a matter of fact, that can seem to take any shape, yet they remain clouds. Can seem to be broken apart in any number of different scenarios, and yet as the wind blows them, they change and yet remain what they've always been. And that's, in a sense, what we're trying to do here. Let go of what spirit seems to have been made into, and get back to the essential understanding of we're not what it seems to have been made into, yet we are what has been used to make it, in a sense. Today's idea identifies you with your one self. It accepts no split identity, nor tries to weave opposing factors into unity. It simply states the truth. Practice this truth today as often as you can, for it will bring your mind from conflict, and I like this, into the quiet fields of peace. I had an interesting episode of forgiveness one day around the whole nature, around the whole sort of period of time that I spent involved with the old man and the academy. And what I saw was the need to learn the lessons that I needed to learn was offered to me in a particular form that came together and seemed to look a particular way, and had it not looked a particular way, I would not have been able to learn the lessons that I needed to learn to continue in this sojourn of awakening. And in that moment, space and time opened up, and everybody and everything was exactly perfect, and as if they had taken shape just for me in order to experience what I needed to experience. And then it was slowly being taken apart, and everybody was retreating, in a sense, from underneath the big top that symbolized the academy, this tent. And as the tent was taken down and unfolded, all those began to make their way to the fields around on the outside of what was underneath, and in the pastures, in the fields of peace. And then I saw in Regina's book, in the Inner Ramana, that the teacher that seemed to be the Inner Ramana used the same illusion of seeking peace in the fields rather than underneath underneath the tent, underneath the big top. So it was sort of interesting that he used this quiet fields of peace. No chill of fear can enter, for your mind has been absolved from madness, letting go illusions of split identity. The illusion of the variety of shapes that seem to split the spirit into multiple identities, or multiple ability to be varieties of reality, are all gone in the recognition of the fact that the Spirit of God is one, and we are all part of the oneness of the Spirit of God. There's a beautiful expression in this. We state again the truth about yourself, the Holy Son of God, who rests in you, whose mind has been restored to sanity. You are the Spirit, lovingly endowed with all your Father's love and peace and joy. You are the Spirit which completes himself and shares his function as creator. So we share function as creator. And what we create is out of what we are. And no matter what it seems to look like, we remain what we have always been, the substance of creation. You are the Spirit which completes himself and shares his function as creator. He is with you always as you are with him. There was a point in time, in an attempt to get me to understand the nature of the oneness of reality, I was given this vision. And in the vision, I was in the Father, and the Father was in me, as the Father was in me, and I was in the Father. They do it. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how. I don't know how it happens. I don't know how the tech crew who is able to open my mind to allow me to see visually, in vision. And that's not with the body's eyes, although, it's an interesting idea when I think about it and try to talk about it. It's as if when these visions are given to us, to me, what seems to happen is the vision that I see in my mind's eye takes predominance over what seems to be the view that my body's eyes have. And the vision steps forward from my mind and leads the way, as what the body's eyes sees sort of recedes and becomes secondary to the understanding that's given in my vision. And without the vision, what the body's eye sees seems to lead. And the vision, which is dim, doesn't have the ability to inform me of what is really occurring within the truth of who I am as spirit, as a soul in the kingdom of heaven. And in this particular sequence of vision, they gave me, which is impossible, which is impossible to, in a sense, and I've attempted to, on occasion. First of all, I'm no artist, so I'm not very good at it. And yet I have seen artists who have been able to depict some of the ideas that were received in visions more readily than I can, to help us understand visually, because when you could see it, when you begin to see it, and this is part of what the Course is teaching us. When you can envision it, you can make it manifest. What you envision in your heart and your mind, in your mind's eye, your spirit's eye, your spiritual eye, what is envisioned within your spiritual eye can be made manifest simply by allowing it to be that which leads you and that you follow, rather than living based on what seems to be the roads that the world takes you down and requires you to travel in order to survive in space and time. So the Father is in you as you are in the Father. And we share that infinite nature, that we are that. We are that eternal and infinite engine of creation. And our spirit, you are the spirit, lovingly endowed with all your Father's love, peace, and joy. That being our reality, we cannot create unlike that. We can seem to see, envision with the body's eyes, things that seem to hide what we are truly like and truly created to be. But we can never not be that which we have always been and always will be, no matter what the form, seems to appear to through the eyes of through the fleshy eyes of the body. We'll never ever be that. We'll always be what's behind the scenes, pulling the strings. And if we pull the strings, if we play the strings of creation, what we will begin to express is the love and the peace and the joy of the Father. No matter what form association we seem to be utilizing in the world of space and time, and no matter what that seems to look like to the body's eyes, when the truth of who we are as spirit leads, it will utilize, as this has been saying in the past lessons, it will utilize whatever is given to it in order to express the joy and peace of its mind, the passion of its mind, the passion that it decides it is. If you decide you're a body, so will your passion be expressed. If you decide you're whole and perfect as God created, you're the spirit, you're a soul in the kingdom, so will you make manifest in a way that's perhaps unseen, yet will be felt. It's the spirit is much like music in that sense. Spirit is much like music in that sense. It's something that you can't see. You can't really see. You can't really taste. You can't feel it directly in a sense. Yet the music as it plays moves us. We feel a response. And we can either react to it or we can join it and experience the joy of the harmony that's being expressed without the need to make it into something other than it is. Today, we try to bring reality still closer to your mind each time we practice. Each time you practice, awareness is brought a little nearer, at least, sometimes 1,000 years or more save. The minutes which you give are multiplied over and over. And this is the important part for me. Over and over, the miracle makes use of time, but is not ruled by time. The miracle makes use of time, but is not ruled by time. The Spirit can make use of the form association, but will never be ruled by the form association. You can confuse yourself into thinking you're the form association, and therefore eliminate. This was yesterday's lesson. And think that's what you are, but you could never be that in reality. It only exists temporarily, as a cloud passing. As a cloud passing, we give definition to the shape that we see it, yet we change not the cloud itself as the wind blows it and changes the shape that the cloud seems to appear in for a second. The minutes which you give are multiplied over and over, for the miracle makes use of time, but is not ruled by it. Salvation, and this is the toughest thing to express, salvation is a miracle. The first and the last. The first that is the last, for it is one. I think Jesus tried to express that when he called himself, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the miracle in which the end of time is seen at the beginning, and in which time dissipates, and we're restored to our eternal and infinite nature. And if we could begin to see, if we could begin to free our mind from the temporal sequentiality of space and time and thinking that that's what this is all about, if we can begin to free our mind and allow our minds to be what they are, if we could attempt to free our minds from the form association, and be as God created us, then we can see, and if we can envision the fact that we are eternal and infinite, whole and perfect. If we can envision that, if we accept those visions into our mind and heart and let them lead the way, we must begin to make manifest that which is eternal, that which is infinite, that which is whole, that which is perfect, that which is like unto the spirit of the oneness itself, of love. We can begin to envision that. We can begin to make that manifest in ways that perhaps are unseen, and yet begin to be active in the activity of what is occurring in space and time. It's a great part in the Course where Jesus talks about parallel lines meet in infinity because of the curvature and the nature of space and time, blah, blah, blah. Einstein, parallel lines, if you picture two parallel lines running parallel to each other and off into the distance as far as you can go, they would meet, and at that point that they meet, we call that infinity. And if our mind can begin to picture infinity, then we could bring infinity, the time of infinity, closer and closer to our mind through the utilization of the vision of infinity as being the reality with that we are being given to make manifest. And that's how we're healed. So forgiveness and creation are parallel lines that meet in eternity. And that's the course that we are bound to. The recognition of the eternal and infinite nature of our mind and our heart as the spirit of the oneness of our Creator. As we begin to make manifest the truth of that idea as our reality right here in the recognition of who we are while we're still using these shapes to sort of indicate that we're form associations for another moment. Let the wind blow it away so you are truly what you've always been in reality. The form may change for an instant, but the spirit that allowed the form to be what it was for an instant will always be there and always be exactly as God created us.